Listen, this is not the time to look away. It's not the time for quiet reflection or gentle self-talk. No, this moment demands your attention like a fire alarm ringing in the dead of night. Do you hear it? The echoes of your own footsteps as you walked away from the people who tried to break you. Each step reverberated like thunder, and they felt it in their bones. You left, and now their world trembles in the silence you left behind. And not to mention your mother, who grew up to witness it. She wasted away at age 5. Her final days. For too long, you stayed in a place that dimmed your light. You gave everything, your time, your energy, your heart, and they took it all like greedy thieves in the night. They didn't see your worth, and worse, they didn't care to look. They only knew how to take, how to drain, and when they thought they had taken it all, they believed you would stay. But here's the truth they never saw coming. You are not the kind of soul that fades away. Sam, when you walked out, it wasn't just a departure. It was a reckoning. Do you feel that? The weight of your absence pressing down on them like a storm they can't escape. Their laughter is quieter now, their confidence faltering. They didn't realize that you weren't just part of their world. You were the one holding it together, and now, without you, the cracks are showing. You didn't leave because you were weak. No, you left because you were strong enough to recognize that staying would mean losing yourself. And now, as they sit in the wreckage of their own making, they finally see it. They see you for what you are, irreplaceable. It's not that they miss you, it's that they miss the version of themselves they could only pretend to be when you were there to prop them up. This is not a time for second guessing. This is not a time to wonder if you did the right thing. Look back at the path you've walked and see it for what it is, a declaration of your worth. Every step away from their toxicity was a step toward freedom. Do you feel it now? The air is clearer, lighter, untainted by their lies. But let me warn you, they will come back. They will try to claw their way into your life again, desperate to reclaim the control they once had. They'll offer apologies, excuses, and empty promises wrapped in pretty words. We've changed, they'll say. We need you, they'll plead. But you must remember this. Their desperation isn't about love or remorse, it's about power. You've shifted the balance, the tables have turned. When you walked away, you didn't just leave a void, you left them exposed. Without you, their masks are slipping, their true selves laid bare. They're panicking now, scrambling to figure out how to survive without the light they dimmed for so long. And here's the irony. They thought you needed them. They thought you couldn't survive without their approval, their presence, their validation. But now they see the truth. You're thriving, you're stronger, and they are the ones unraveling. So let this moment burn into your memory. Let it remind you of your strength, your courage, your worth. You are not someone who fades into the background. You are the storm that shakes the foundations, the force that cannot be ignored, but the storm that can make it move whenever you want. Her heart squeezed with emotion, and now as they sit in the silence, waiting for you to come back, you will show them the truth. There is no going back. This is your time. Your power is no longer theirs to control. The narrative has shifted, and the pen is in your hands now. So take a breath, stand tall, and know this. They may be desperate to bring you back, but you are walking forward, and the only direction that matters is ahead. Do you remember how it felt to sit in the shadow of your own worth? Unable to see yourself clearly because they kept you in the dark. They fed you words that sounded sweet, wrapped in velvet lies, but each one left a scar. You're lucky to have us, they said. You'll never find better, they whispered, and over time you started to believe them. Not because it was true, but because they repeated it often enough to bury the truth beneath their poison. There were sleepless nights when the weight of their words pressed down on your chest like an anchor. Nights when you stared at the ceiling, replaying every moment, every interaction, wondering if maybe they were right. Maybe you were too much, or not enough. You doubted yourself until self-doubt became second nature. The constant ache of being taken for granted gnawed at you, hollowing you out from the inside. And still, you stayed. You stayed because you thought if you gave more, they would see your worth. Thought that they needed an acolyte to share. You realized you had nothing to offer. No one had ever loved you. If you bent further, they would finally appreciate what you brought to the table. But the more you gave, the more they took. And when you had nothing left to give, they acted as though it was your fault. They turned your kindness into weakness, your love into a burden. They underestimated you. They saw only what they wanted to see, a version of you they could control. They never saw the fire beneath the surface, the strength you kept hidden even from yourself. And why would they? They were too busy building their illusions, too focused on keeping you small so they could feel big. The sentence, and let's not forget the quiet moments, the ones that cut the deepest. The times they dismissed your dreams, laughed at your ambitions, or shrugged off your pain. They didn't need to yell to hurt you. Their silence did the job just as well. Each time you opened your heart, they closed the door a little tighter, until you stopped knocking altogether. It wasn't just them though, was it? The world has its own way of piling on the pressure. The answer to the question, in order to free everyone, which of us is willing to name it first? It's been a while, she said. She turned to Paint Studios and listened to them knock. Society tells you who you're supposed to be before you even know who you are. It whispers in your ear, shaping you with its expectations, its demands, its endless comparisons. Be better, it says. Be perfect. And when you inevitably fall short of its impossible standards, it points the finger and says, "See? We told you so." And then there's the voice inside your head, the one that learned its lines from all those outside influences. It echoes their doubts, their criticisms, until it becomes hard to tell where their words end and your own thoughts begin. You look in the mirror, and instead of seeing yourself, you see their distorted reflection staring back at you. But here's the truth they never wanted you to realize. Their power over you was always an illusion. They built it brick by brick using your insecurities, your fears, and your need for connection. And then they threw you into the moat and made you follow it. They created your inflection, your brick, marked your natural speaking skills, put you in the wrong language, and you let them. Not because you were weak, but because you cared. You wanted to believe the best in them, even when they showed you their worst. Take a moment to reflect on the toll it took. The nights you cried silently so no one would hear. The mornings you woke up feeling like a shell of yourself, too drained to face the day. The times you bit your tongue, smiled through the pain, and told yourself it would get better. All the while, you carried the weight of their expectations, their demands, their indifference. This is where the villain in your story comes into focus. Maybe it's a person, or maybe it's the fear they planted in you. Maybe it's the relentless pressure to conform, or the voice in your head that tells you you're not enough. Whatever it is, it thrives on your pain, your doubt, your silence. It feeds on your reluctance to stand up, to speak out, to walk away. But let me tell you something. You are not defined by the struggles you've endured. You are not the sum of their judgments, their dismissals, their betrayals. You are more than the sleepless nights and the hollow days. You are more than the scars they left behind. Yes, they underestimated you. Yes, they tried to keep you small. But what they didn't see, what they could never understand, is that every scar, every tear, every moment of doubt was forging something stronger within you. They thought they were breaking you, but all they did was prepare you for the moment you would rise. So, hold on to this truth. Your pain was real, and it mattered, but it does not define you. So good. You are not a victim of their stories. You are the hero of your own. And the story isn't over yet. There's a moment, always a moment, when the walls close in so tightly that you can no longer breathe. Do you remember it? That suffocating pressure, that inescapable weight of staying in a place that was never meant for you? It wasn't just the circumstances. It was the silence that screamed the loudest. The silence of your dreams abandoned. The silence of your voice unheard. How many times did you sit there, staring into the void of what your life had become, wondering if this was all there was? How many times did you tell yourself, it will get better, only to wake up to the same emptiness, the same chains that grew tighter with every passing day? You stayed, hoping, praying that they would see you, that they would change, that somehow the love, the effort, the sacrifices you poured into them would be enough to make them wake up. But they didn't wake up, did they? No, they slept soundly while you carried the weight of it all. What would you do without your people? Silence. They lived in comfort while you bore the discomfort of compromise after compromise. They thrived while you slowly withered. You were like a bird in a cage, wings clipped not by force, but by whispers. Whispers that told you this was as high as you'd ever fly. They convinced you that the bars weren't real, that the limitations you felt were your own fault. You're imagining things, they'd say. You're too sensitive. You're overreacting. And for a while, you believed them. But deep down, you knew the truth, didn't you? You felt it in the pit of your stomach, in the way your chest tightened every time you had to smile through the pain. You knew that staying meant losing yourself piece by piece, day by day. And yet, you stayed, because leaving felt impossible. You told yourself you didn't have a choice. You told yourself it wasn't the right time. You told yourself that maybe, just maybe, if you held on a little longer, things would change. But all the while, you were sinking, slowly, silently, but undeniably sinking. Do you remember the nights when the darkness felt like it would swallow you whole? When your mind replayed every mistake, every misstep, every cruel word they ever said to you? The nights when you stared at the ceiling, wondering if you were the problem, if maybe you really weren't enough? Those nights stole pieces of you, pieces you thought you'd never get back. And the mornings, they were no better. Waking up felt like a chore, like pulling yourself out of quicksand only to face another day of pretending. Pretending to be okay, pretending to be strong. Pretending that the cracks weren't getting wider. But let's be honest, the worst part wasn't the pain. It was the numbness, the slow, creeping numbness that set in after so many disappointments, so many betrayals, so many times you were left to pick up the pieces, alone. That numbness was the real thief. It stole your joy, your passion, your light. It turned you into a ghost of who you once were. How many times did you wonder if this was your fault? If you were too broken, too flawed, too unlovable to deserve more? How many times did you blame yourself for the way they treated you? Maybe if I were better, you thought. Maybe if I tried harder. But no matter what you did, it was never enough for them, and it was never going to be. The truth is, staying would have destroyed you. Slowly, quietly, but completely. They didn't care about your dreams, your feelings, your worth. They cared about control, about keeping you in a place where they felt superior, where they could take without giving, where they could thrive off your light while keeping you in the dark. And here's the thing they didn't want you to realize. You staying wasn't saving anything. Not the relationship, not the situation, and certainly not yourself. Every day you stayed, you lost a little more of who you were, and if you had stayed any longer, there might not have been anything left to save. Let that sink in. Staying would have meant losing everything. Not all at once, but piece by painful piece. It would have meant shrinking yourself to fit into their small, toxic world. It would have meant dimming your light until you forgot it was ever there. But you didn't stay. You walked away, and that decision, though it may have felt like breaking, was the first step toward healing, toward reclaiming the parts of yourself that they tried to take, toward remembering that you were never the problem. Yes, the darkness was deep. Yes, the pain was real, but so is your strength. And while you may not have seen it then, the fact that you're here right now listening to these words proves one thing. You were never meant to stay in the cage. To do not give in. Last but not least, to subordinate your will to the threat, including mental and physical purity. You were meant to fly. Let the memory of that despair serve as a reminder, not of your weakness, but of your resilience, because you made it out. You chose yourself, and that is a strength they will never understand. That first step, it felt like a whisper, didn't it? A hesitant, trembling whisper in a world that screamed at you to stay. But don't underestimate it. That step was the beginning of everything. Grovel, that step shattered chains you didn't even realize were binding you. That step, small as it seemed, echoed with the power of 1,000 storms. Walking away wasn't just an act of leaving. It was an act of rebellion, a declaration, a refusal to stay in a world that demanded your silence. You didn't walk away because you were weak. No, you walked away because you finally understood that staying was never going to save you. And look at you now. The pain you carried, it hasn't disappeared, but it's changing. It's transforming into something you never thought it could be. Strength. Do you see it? The scars they left on you, the ones you once hated, are no longer marks of pain. They're battle marks. Proof that you survived. Proof that even when you were broken, you refused to be defeated. Take a moment to reflect on this truth. You didn't just survive, you're rebuilding. Piece by piece, step by step, you are reclaiming the parts of yourself that were lost. You are not weak. You never were. Weakness is giving up. Weakness is staying silent. Weakness is accepting less than you deserve. And you did the hardest thing imaginable. You chose to leave the comfort of the familiar, even when it meant walking into the unknown. Yes, it hurt. Yes, it was terrifying. But look at what it's creating. Your tears, the ones you thought were wasted, have watered the seeds of a new life. And now those roots are growing deeper than you ever imagined. They are anchoring you, grounding you, preparing you to bloom in ways they never thought you could. You are stronger than they ever gave you credit for. And now you're starting to see it for yourself. The pain they inflicted, the doubts they planted, they no longer define you. Instead, they've become the forge in which your resilience was born. Every harsh word, every betrayal, every moment of despair was fuel for the fire that now burns within you. Think about it. They tried to break you, and yet here you are. They thought they could silence you, but your voice is growing louder. They thought they could dim your light, but now it shines brighter than ever. The very things they used to hold you down have become the tools you're using to rise. But let's be clear, this isn't just about surviving. This is about thriving, about reclaiming your power, your joy, your life. It's about understanding that you are more than what happened to you. You are more than the pain, more than the scars, more than the struggles. Take a deep breath. Do you feel it? That is the power of someone who has been through hell and come out stronger. That is the power of someone who is no longer afraid to take up space, to demand more, to live unapologetically. You are not defined by their lies. You are not defined by their rejection. You are not defined by their inability to see your worth. You are defined by what you do now, in this moment, by the strength you choose to embrace, by the life you choose to create. And let's talk about that life for a moment. Because this isn't just about walking away. It's about walking towards something greater. It's about building a life that feels like freedom, a life that feels like home. It's about surrounding yourself with people who see you, who value you, who lift you up instead of tearing you down. The road ahead won't be easy, growth never is. But every step you take is a step away from the cage and toward the sky. Every time you choose to believe in yourself, to fight for yourself, you are planting seeds that will bloom in ways you can't yet imagine. You are not weak, you are not broken, you are not less than, you are rebuilding. And that is the most powerful thing you can do, because rebuilding isn't just about putting the pieces back together. It's about creating something new, something stronger, something unbreakable. Your tears, your pain, your struggle, they have not been in vain. They've been the foundation, the roots, the soil from which you are growing. And as those roots run deeper, you will rise taller, you will stand firmer, you will become the person you were always meant to be. So stand tall, own your scars, embrace your journey, because this is your time to rise, your time to thrive, your time to show the world and yourself just how powerful you truly are. Look at where you are now, really look. The person you are today is not the person who walked away from that toxic chapter. You may carry the scars, but those scars are not a mark of defeat. They are proof of survival, of transformation, of resilience. They thought they broke you, but what they didn't realize is this: you've become unbreakable. When you walked away, something shifted, not just in your life, but in theirs. Your absence exposed their fragility, their dependence on keeping you small to feel large. Without you, their world began to crumble, and suddenly they were faced with the truth they refused to acknowledge. You were the strength holding it all together. Do you see it now? Walking away wasn't just an escape, it was an awakening. It wasn't just about leaving them behind, it was about stepping into your own power. They thought they could define you, limit you, control you. But here's the truth they never saw coming. The very fire they used to hurt you became the forge that transformed you. Let's ask the question that changes everything. Who were you before them? Think back to that person, the one who doubted, the one who stayed quiet, the one who bent until they nearly broke. Now, ask yourself, who are you now? Are you still that person, or have you grown into someone they could never have imagined? You are not the same. You are stronger. You are wiser. You are someone who knows their worth, someone who has faced the darkest nights and come out on the other side. You are someone who understands that walking away was not a sign of weakness, but a declaration of strength. Repetition anchors the truth, so let's make it clear. They thought they broke you. They thought they silenced you. They thought they defined you, but you've shattered every expectation they had. You've risen higher than they ever dreamed possible. And now, they are the ones left scrambling, trying to figure out how they ever let you go. Here's the thing about transformation. It's messy, it's painful, and it's breathtakingly beautiful. Like a phoenix, you burned in the fire of their betrayal, their lies, their attempts to keep you small. But that fire didn't consume you. No, it purified you. It stripped away everything false, everything weak, everything that didn't belong to the person you are becoming. And now you rise. You rise with wings of gold, with a strength that no one can take away. You rise with a clarity of purpose, knowing that your worth was never tied to their approval. You rise as someone who is no longer afraid to demand more, to be more, to live fully and unapologetically. Think about this. They are watching you now. Watching as you rebuild, as you grow, as you become the person they never thought you could be. They are desperate to understand how you've done it, desperate to pull you back into their orbit, desperate to have what they can no longer touch. But you are untouchable now. You've shed the chains they placed on you, and with every step forward, you've created a distance they can never close. Ask yourself again, who are you now? Are you still carrying their words, their doubts, their expectations, or have you finally let them go? Have you embraced the truth of your own strength, your own agency, your own worth? You are not just surviving, you are thriving. You are not just moving on, you are soaring. The person you were before them might not have believed it was possible, but the person you are now knows it's the only path forward. And here's the most powerful truth of all. This transformation wasn't for them. It wasn't to prove them wrong or to make them regret what they did. It was for you. Every step, every struggle, every triumph was for you, because you deserve a life that feels like freedom. You deserve a life that feels like your own. Let this moment be your crescendo. Let it be the turning point where you stop looking back and start looking ahead. Let it be the moment you realize that you've always had the power, not because of them, but in spite of them. So, take a deep breath and say it with me. I am not the same. I am stronger. I am wiser. I am ready to rise. This is your story, your journey, your life. And the best part? It's only just beginning. Now is the time, not tomorrow, not someday, now. This is the moment you claim your life, your future, and your power. Because let's be clear, there's no going back, only forward. The person you've become cannot and will not fit into the small spaces you once inhabited. Take a moment to breathe that in. Every step you've taken, every battle you've fought, every scar you've carried, it's all led to this, to a version of you that is unstoppable, undeniable, unbreakable. You've come too far to hesitate now. Your journey of self-reclamation isn't over. It's just beginning. You've peeled back the layers of their lies, their manipulations, and their control. You've shed the weight of their expectations. But now it's time to fill the space they once occupied with something far greater. Your own purpose, your own joy, your own truth. Here's the roadmap for moving forward. Step 1, embrace your worth. You are not what they said you were. You are not the mistakes they pointed out or the flaws they exaggerated. You are not small, you are not insignificant, and you are certainly not someone to be underestimated. Look in the mirror and see yourself clearly, not through their distorted lens, but through the eyes of someone who has fought for their freedom. Speak your worth into existence. Say it out loud. I am enough. I am worthy. I deserve more. Repeat it until it becomes a part of you. Step 2, build boundaries that protect your peace. Your peace is sacred. It's not something to be given away freely, especially to those who didn't value it before. Learn to say no without guilt. Saying no to them is saying yes to yourself. Surround yourself with people who pour into you as much as you pour into them. Let go of those who drain you, even if it hurts. Step 3, reframe pain as power. Your pain is not your weakness. It is your strength. Every scar you carry is a story of survival and triumph. Reflect on what you've learned from your struggles. What did they teach you about yourself? What did they reveal about your strength, your endurance, your capacity to grow? Use your pain as fuel. Let it remind you of what you've overcome and what you are capable of achieving. Step 4, embrace growth as a lifelong journey. Transformation doesn't stop here. This isn't the end of the road. It's the beginning of a new chapter. Set goals for yourself that excite and challenge you. Push past your comfort zone because that's where real growth happens. Commit to healing, to learning, to evolving. Let every step forward be a celebration of how far you've come. Step 5, take ownership of your story. This is your life, your journey, your narrative. You get to decide what happens next. Stop giving away the pen. Don't let anyone else write your story for you. Declare your independence from their judgments, their expectations, and their control. Your life belongs to you and you alone. And now, let's reframe the narrative. Those scars you carry, they're not flaws. They're not signs of failure. They're marks of a masterpiece in the making. You are a mosaic of broken pieces that have been reshaped, reforged, and transformed into something unshakable. You are art. You are strength. You are beauty born from resilience. They want what they can no longer have. They see you now standing taller, shining brighter, thriving without them. And that is their loss, not yours. Because what they didn't realize is that you were never theirs to begin with. You've always belonged to yourself, even in the moments when you doubted it most. So here's the final message, the one I need you to carry with you every single day. You are not a victim. You are not just a survivor. You are a force of nature. You are the storm they didn't see coming. And now, as you move forward, you are unstoppable. They thought they could break you, but all they did was create a masterpiece. You. The path ahead is yours to walk. The future is yours to create. And there is no limit to what you can become. So stand tall. Breathe deeply, and step boldly into the life you were always meant to live. This is your time. Take it, own it, live it.